Now Shanwu, former federal prosecutor, along with David Cay Johnston, Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative reporter whose latest book is called The Big Cheat, How Donald Trump Fleeced America and Enriched Himself and His Family. I know you've done a lot of research here, David, into the business practices. So, Shan, let me start with you, though. The judge said he reviewed thousands of documents as part of this investigation. He said that the Attorney General in New York, Letitia James, did uncover, quote, copious evidence of possible financial fraud. Okay, that's a pretty significant thing to say, isn't it?
Oh, it's very significant. Frankly, with all these different legal cases that the Trump legal team keeps losing, this one is unique because it's an example of a judge passing on what we talk about as the merits of the case. He's reviewed actual documents here, and he actually said that the evidence here is damning enough that if the New York AG didn't do anything at all, didn't have an investigation, that it would be akin to dereliction of duty. So he's signaling loud and clear that there is fire within the smoke.
Wow, that which is a pretty, as you say, a very serious statement to say. So, David, you've been through pretty much every deposition we know of that Trump has ever given. And as you've talked about, sometimes he's subdued, other times very combative. Like during a taped deposition over lawsuits about Trump University defrauding students. Everyone may remember that. Mother Jones obtained the video. Here's Trump.
How many more do you have? How many more names do you have?
Mr. Trump, you're the one who wants to get through this quickly. Just answer the questions and we'll get through it quickly.
You're not going to get anything through quickly. You don't want to get anything through quickly. Same answer. Let's just go to court and get this case. I'm dying to go to court on this case.
David, he fought hard not to do this deposition. If it happens, what can we expect?
Well, if I were Donald's lawyer, and I'm not a lawyer, I just teach law, I would tell him to exercise his Fifth Amendment rights. The problem is that in New York, in a civil case, doing that can be used to draw an adverse position on it. You can say, a judge can tell a jury, the refusal to answer these questions suggests that the litigant knows they've done bad things and knows that they are in trouble here on a civil level. But Donald's facing at least 2 potential indictments in Atlanta and Manhattan, and so it's a real problem for him in terms of testifying in the Letitia James civil case.
What's interesting is, you say we always hear Trump talk about how people who take the Fifth are mobsters, or it shows their guilt. Well, maybe it's because he knows that New York law. He always tends to know the laws very well. Shan, Trump says that he will appeal. Do you think this deposition will ever happen?
I think the deposition will happen if the arguments that they've made, which the judge rejected, are the ones they'll make on appeal. These are very weak arguments. Particularly laughable was the idea that Trump belongs to a protected class, which is a very specific term in state and federal laws. I mean, the only protected class they're trying to create would be one for former presidents, and that's just silly. So I think these arguments are all very weak. I think they'll lose at the Court of Appeals. Now, of course, to the points about the Fifth Amendment and any other privilege, compelling them to attend the deposition doesn't make them speak, and that's part of the reason why the judge is upholding this. They can still invoke various privileges if they want at the time, but I think the depositions are going to happen.
So, David, why is Trump fighting so hard against giving this specific deposition?
Well, Donald doesn't want to be held accountable anywhere for anything in his whole life. Remember, this is a man who said, I've never done anything in my life for which I would ask for forgiveness. But this case is troubling for him because the evidence already in the record shows numerous violations of New York state law, including business records law, which is a serious matter in New York state. It exposes him to civil actions by others based on what else happens in this case. Local governments coming after him for more taxes, banks looking at his testimony saying, we made a loan to you, or we opened a checking account for you when you lied to us, and closing off business. And there's a whole world of problems that will grow out of this for him.
All right. Thank you both very much. I appreciate your time tonight.
Good to see you.
And next, it's out there.